Hey, Melchizedek Todd here, and I want to talk about the impossible task, which is making a game. I mean, it is possible, but I'm just saying that it's a very hard thing to do. Um, I think by yourself with a team, uh, especially unless you're being bankrolled by a company, uh, it's very hard to do. Definitely, like I said, I have a family, I have a job. Um, And so it's like, and for about 20 years, I did indie comic books. And that's, I produced those. I drew, wrote, inked, colored, um, printed, so forth, solo. And so definitely that was hard too, at times. But, and if anything, that prepared me to, make video games because I was able to use my skill set of drawing a lot and able to pick up, doing video game animation and learning Unity because if anybody's comic book artist, anybody else out there, photographer, so forth, who have used Photoshop or in Adobe Illustrator, and if you want to get into game dev and you want to know what engine to use, I mean, for me, I picked up Unity um, because that's the one which when I was watching YouTube, I think Thomas Brush, when I learned that he drew his earlier games, he drew all of them. He used Photoshop and everything, and then other tutorials I watch. Just this Unity, just to say that there's a relation between Unity, Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, those kind of programs. There is. Um, yeah, Unity is a game language and so forth, but just there's a certain intuitive, um, I guess hard to say, intuitive like instinct. If that makes sense, or with the interface, it's just that if you've done, like I say, if you've done Photoshop, Illustrator, then the interface and this Unity might be your thing. Because there's just a connection. I just felt like I don't know, maybe there's just a connection I felt like with it. But anyway, there's other engines you can use. But anyway, so the impossible task. So what makes uh, making a game sometimes impossible? The biggest thing, is, of course, is time. Um, unless you're like single and you have, like I said, you're bankrolled or um, somehow you living at home and so forth. It's very hard, because if you have a full time job, you got bills to pay, you got family, you got friends and so forth, and you have a life. You got to make time to make a game, and, and I'm saying like, and even especially with indie games, I didn't want to say that if you have a crowdfunder, because before you get the crowdfunder, you got to make a crowdfunder. You got to make a good crowdfunder. You can there's an art I've noticed to crowdfunding. At least when I see successful pages to non-successful pages, and you gotta, of course, build a fan base. Um, so that's hard to do, especially just coming out of the blue. If you don't have a name for yourself, it takes time. Posting on social media, um, making gifs, contacting people. Excuse me. Like I said, and just making the crowdfunder, and then getting the money. Hopefully, you get the money. Then after that, it's good. 'Cause at least you can, full time make a game. But then, all the steps that go into it after that, just the animation, the sound, the music, the UI. It's a lot to it, and it's like I said, it's like, and no game, you can't, a lot of games are made. It usually takes like the minimum I've seen with a lot of indie games. Well, it's about like 2 years. I mean, yeah, if you have like a big team, you might be able to, put something together in about a year, but um, for indie people, it usually takes like 2 years minimum. Other than that, 3 years, 4 years. Like the game I'm working now, like my first game took me like 2 years, and I was just learning. I mean, I'm proud of it. There's some things uh, that I'm not proud of about it, but it was my first game. It took me like 2 years to do. That's a long time on a project. When you have a full time job and family and stuff, and the main thing, and when you want to be balanced. Now you can have a full time job, have a family, friends, and so forth, but you can be very unbalanced and make a game and burn yourself out or alienate people or mess up your life. So when I'm talking about doing the impossible task, making a game, I mean doing it right, doing it where you do balance your time out with your family. You have your job, your regular job. Pay your bills. Take a bath, eat, and stuff. That's what I'm talking about because anybody can do any project, do anything, and not be balanced and kind of destroy your life, which you really shouldn't do. A game is still just a game in the end. And so anyway, so there's a lot to go to it, and that's why it's kind of like this time, like I said, time wise it seems impossible because sometimes after a year, 2 years, and you see you're still not at the finish line yet. In my last video talking about over the hump is kind of like where I was at, where I I was feeling really discouraged and so forth. 'Cause I just was tired and burnt out. Um, and I try to, I think I do pretty well balancing my life and everything, spending time with my family and so forth, and I work and everything. And so making a game is kind of like a part-time job. And your energy, you only have so much energy and so forth. And so you only have so much time. At least, for me, maybe putting like a couple hours in a day, um, and just just pushing it to get things done. The good thing I work overnight, so I was able to do some drawing and stuff, you know, at my job. So that be very helpful in a lot of ways. But like I said, it gets to a certain point where it does just seem impossible because there's so many hats you got to wear. Uh, Especially if you're solo, and like I said, there's so many other things that go to it that it just feels impossible. I think about I think the Impossible Task is from like the John Wick movie. They I guess the story about how he went and did this impossible task to free himself from being a hitman. And so anyway, but for game dev, yeah, it's kind of like an impossible task because there's so much you have to do, and what helps me a lot is that there's that old phrase, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So you have to take one thing at a time and work on it and just finish it. I mean, you can work on, like for me, I work on the animation first. I drew everything before I had to anyway, before I could actually put it into Unity and so forth. But even once I started making the levels in Unity, I still had other animation I had to do, other programming I had to do, the little bit of marketing I was doing because you kind of have to do that also. But you just do one piece at a time, and people do things different ways. I do try to schedule things, excuse me, out of when I'm going to finish this part of the game, when I'm going to finish this part of the game. But then just setbacks sometimes. You might lose something or something doesn't work. You might have a bug. The other day I had worked on this one level for about a week and then I accidentally erased it. And the funny thing is that I was around my kids were around and so forth, so I could only scream in my head because it was very frustrating. But I wasn't completely stressed because I had already made the level, so I knew what I needed to do to make the level. So I was able to make the level again much faster because I knew what I needed to do and what was the expectations for the level. But yeah, it's frustrating having all your work just like gone. It was my fault. I just wasn't looking when I was saving something and clicked the wrong button. So, but anyway, um, but but the main thing is like you just don't want to be discouraged. That's if something does look impossible. And I think sometimes with game dev, people think that's a problem. That people think that it is impossible. to do because of time and everything else, other obligations and so forth. Um, but like I said, it's like the old saying, it just how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Just take one piece and keep on going. And like I said, so I'm 2 years pretty much in this project, and it probably gonna take me like another year. I feel like, um, and so you know, it is what it is. I mean, I wish I could have done it in 2 years, but it's a lot of stuff I got to do, and I actually, I got to make a crowdfunder soon. Probably make a few crowdfunders because I don't have a really big fan base. That's what I'm working on now. Somewhat, I am on Steam finally, so that should help. But even that with marketing like a full-time job. So that's something also I gotta do piece by piece, and in marketing also sometimes a gamble. You don't know if you do that and do this is going to work. Crowdfunding, you're not sure you're going to get that money. You're not sure you're going to have people going to support you. But you put all this work in, you do what you have to do, and hopefully it works out. And so that's to me is like where the impossible task becomes possible, as long as you go piece by piece and you just keep on going and don't give up. But all right, there's a link to go to Steam, wishlist my game. You can subscribe to my channel if you like, and have a good day. Thanks.